Alright guys, we're back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to be talking about the new Wagner intake manifold for B58 engines. This is something that's actually been out for a little while now. I made a video back in February, originally introducing it to you guys when it first dropped, but they made a pretty significant change, and of course the big headline is that the price is much cheaper now. So in this video, I just kind of want to go over some of the technical details and what's going on with this intake manifold, as well as just give you guys the information you might need if you're interested in going this route or just kind of curious about any of the data that they've provided. So hopefully you find this information useful. As always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So the Wagner intake manifold isn't anything new. Like I said, they released it several months ago, and it's something that I think most of us kind of anticipated would be a little bit more on the expensive side. It was launched around $4,500, so that's a little bit more than a lot of their competition. But again, just knowing Wagner Tuning, they tend to be more expensive than a lot of the other companies in the aftermarket space. So that wasn't really a surprise. They still seem to do pretty good sales, but a lot of people were still hoping that we would find a cheaper alternative. Unfortunately, it looks like our wishes have been granted. So this new intake manifold was shown a little bit at SEMA several weeks ago, and now they've officially put it up for pre-order. Now the big change here is that they've switched from the billet manufacturing to a cast aluminum manufacturing process. And this process is significantly cheaper, and they're able to basically maintain the same design while offering it at a much cheaper cost. So if you look at it overall from the outside, you probably can't see a significant difference, but the whole plenum and end tank is cast aluminum now instead of billet machined, and that just makes it easier for them to produce it. So let's just go over some technical details again to kind of remind you guys what we're working with here. So of course, this part has a couple different priorities. It has to be better at cooling, it has to be stronger, and overall just provide better performance. And so from a cooling standpoint, the core is much bigger. It's over double the size of the stock intercooler, and it also reduces pressure drop by 40%. So it's actually significantly more efficient. And when you're actually pushing air over the intercooler, it basically has much less resistance. So even if you're driving it on a back-to-back with the exact same tune, you're going to see a much more efficient process, which should help net more power and less losses. They actually provided some data on the IATs, and you can see how much lower the IATs are. So this is in Celsius, but it shows almost 17 to 18 degrees Celsius reduction in temperature. And so that translates to about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see at the peak, it was a little bit over 100 degrees. And now that the intake manifold is installed, it dropped down to the 70s. Also, it's 100% plug and play, so it's completely removable and you can reverse it back to stock without doing any trimming or modification to the engine or your engine bay. It does have a couple different components that are included with it, so you can see the extra hoses that retrofit for your intercooler lines, and I think it also probably has some extra components for your evap system and all of those connections. It of course has some extra ports for additional fueling and cooling, so you can see the 6 ports on top that are provided for you to use if you want to add port injection. It also has threaded holes if you want to add water methanol injection or nitrous injection into the intake manifold. It also has a couple extra ports in case you want to add any additional pressure sensors or triggers for other components in your car's system. You know, if you need something to trigger a low pressure fuel pump or anything else, you know, you can find your references directly off the intake manifold. It also does have the anti-corrosion coating on top of it. This is something that they put on pretty much all of their products. It kind of gives them that signature black finish, but this just kind of helps it last longer and look better for a longer time. And it does come with up to a 4-year warranty, so that's actually pretty big. Of course, it's mostly due to manufacturing defects, so if you do something that potentially damages it from just making a whole lot of power or something crazy, then I guess in that case it probably wouldn't be covered. But if there was an issue with like the threading in the holes or any other like manufacturing defect that causes it to fail, you can always get that replaced for free. Now onto the main topic. Everybody's worried about the price. So the price for the TU engines has dropped to under $2,500. So that's absolutely the cheapest one on the market at this point, which is crazy since we're talking about Wagner Tuning. But under 2,500 bucks is a huge drop from where they were before. It's almost half of the price. They do also have an offering for Gen 1 engines, but it's a little bit more expensive. Again, I think like the evap connections or something just makes it have a couple more components. So it's $200 extra. Still under 3 grand, still significantly cheaper than anything else, and should perform much better than stock. So at this point, it seems like everybody's trying to jump on the pre-order if they can. They estimate that it'll actually be shipping in about 6 to 8 weeks. So I guess at the beginning of 2023, we'll start seeing these get out to a couple cars. And they're hoping to see it on some Supras at TX2K. You can actually see they've posted on their Instagram a couple videos showing ones that are shipping out. So it'll be really cool to see how some of these perform in the field. Speaking of which, they did mention that there are several cars in Europe that are running the previous version of the intake manifold with the billet intakes. And you can actually see on the Cody Performance Instagram page, they've been posting this for a while. For a lot of us, this might have been going under the radar because they're not necessarily like the most popular company, or everybody isn't really talking about them. It's kind of one of those things, I guess, if you know, you know, but they always post it in the description. They always have little clips of it in their reels and stuff so that you can see that it's going on the M140s that they're pushing out. And some of those cars have dynoed 1,000 horsepower or even more. So it definitely seems like it's being put to work. I haven't seen these cars actually put out performance time, so I think that's kind of the next step. We're looking for people to post some draggies and show, you know, what it can do under some stress testing. But at least the initial data shows us that it should do a good job of cooling. Now, one last additional point is they also released their new charge pipe kit. So this kit's going to be designed for the stock turbo, but it's also going to help if you're adding the intake manifold, it'll fit with that. If you're adding port injection, it'll have the silicone coupler that can help compensate for that. So this kind of just helps bring everything around. They've already offered heat exchangers and downpipes and other components to help build up your engine, but now they've got the charge pipe to help complete it. So this currently is only for TU engines, but I anticipate there should be a Gen 1 version coming out in the future. The big difference here that I noticed is they use kind of like an adapter for the turbo outlet, and then they attach the charge pipe to that adapter with a silicone hose. So it's not kind of like the typical all one-piece hose with like a proprietary fitting to clip onto the turbo. Again, maybe this helps kind of keep the cost down by just making the small adapters and then attaching it with a silicone elbow. Either way, I think it'll work great. Should fit really easily with all of those joints that you can kind of adjust it and make it fit exactly how you want, and even maybe stretch it out a little bit. Like I said, if you have port injection or any other accessories that relocate the intake manifold. So yeah, a lot coming out from Wagner Tuning to close out the year. I'm really excited to see how this stuff performs next year. If you guys have a Wagner Tuning intake manifold on your car, definitely make sure you post up any data that you have, quarter miles, draggy slips, 100 to 200, anything that you have to help illustrate how these things are performing, because I know a lot of people are curious, myself included. But yeah, that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.